how happy is the blameless vessel's lot. The world forgetting by the world forgot. Eternal sunshine of a spotless mind. Each prayer accepted, and each wish resigned.
Is there any risk of brain damage?
Well, technically speaking, the procedure is brain damage, but it's on a par with a night of heavy drinking. Nothing you'll miss.
It's time for a little something. I forget. My notes say I'm Professor Robert E.G. Black, and I'm here with Evan from Left of the Projector, and it's time to discuss Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but they're erasing me. I have no memory of any of this, so Evan, take it away.
Okay. Well, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, if I can remember correctly, I can't either. They got me too.
Oh, well, thank you for listening. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Minute is just one part of an existential trilogy of podcasts.
It was a movie minute or a podcast minute. I
did that once. I did an episode of Michael Myers Minute where I was like, can I discuss this minute of the movie with behind the scenes information, with commentary, and keep it under a minute? And I edited it so it was exactly a minute with an intro and outro. And I had to talk really fast. It was crazy. And I shouldn't remember that because they would have erased it along with all my other movie knowledge and podcast knowledge, I assume.
Unless you hid it somewhere.
Yeah. I hid it in my shame center where I was intruded upon by Kyoko coming in to wake me up. It all ties together. We are at a house where, oddly enough, someone named Rob lives, which this set amuses me because it is, I'm fairly sure, in the back room of the bookstore is where they put this, which is part of why there's books everywhere on the piano and over behind the chair. Because the transition they did from the bookstore is basically why they put this in here. And it's why we don't see a lot of angles of this room.
Yeah, you just get the staircase really out.
We see the stairs, we see the piano and the chair, and that's it. So it's where Rob and Carrie live. The dog got off his lap, and now he's telling it to get off as minute 25 begins. And then we get a shot of Joel, and I only noticed as I was doing the notes this minute, I didn't notice last minute, the calendar is wrong. This movie is set in 2004. That calendar is not 2004. The days that the months start and end are wrong. I don't know what calendar it is. I didn't go that far. Jumping in from editing because apparently I couldn't even be bothered to check the obvious. This is a 2003 calendar, which would have been when they were filming. Because then it amused me when they were at a wider shot and there's just a picture of their dog just pasted on the calendar, probably to cover up whatever it actually was. And the picture is not straight, like it's clearly just taped on. Joel says, right, yeah, I don't want to seem desperate. And Carrie comes back downstairs with the laundry basket. That's when we get the wider shot. And she says, Joel, why don't you just see this as a sign? Make a clean break. And she looks toward Rob, right? And we hear a second right as she's setting the laundry basket down, but her mouth doesn't move as she's in the foreground of the angle on Rob. We also hear Joel moaning in the background. Rob says, all right, Joel, look, man, seriously. And he opens a drawer next to him, which there's a cigar box above. Remember, he offered them a joint earlier. That's probably where he
I was going to say, I assume it's inside the cigar box.
He gets out an envelope, and Carrie's like, Rob, he says, here's the deal. And she says, don't do that, Rob. What are you doing? No. And he says, what's your fucking suggestion, Carrie? What's your brilliant reason solution?
I love David Cross.
Yeah. And this scene is basically, it's a great marker about relationships because Rob and Carrie clearly have problems. Rob's side of the room, he has a recliner. There are headphones hanging on the lamp next to it and a folded up tray table. Like this is the place he retreats to like smoke his joints. Or maybe he's got a TV behind where the camera is, where he's a gamer. I don't know. This is 2004. So yeah, that could have been a thing. The other side of the room has a piano, which is not about being alone. A piano is made to be heard, fills the room. He's got headphones. And so it tells us a lot about their relationship and who they are as characters. I don't think the movie ever tells us outright that Carrie is Joel's sister.
No, I just assumed
that. But that's what I've been operating by.
Yeah, I assumed it.
Yeah. But they're definitely friends. And they knew the couple. That's why they got this card that Rob is going to hand him. Carrie says, oh, you're going to make this about our shit now? This isn't about us. Which, of course, with relationships, of course it is. If they're going to get involved, it's going to affect their relationship as well.
Yep.
Whatever their problems are.
Yeah, I made note that it was like I think the same as you said. Is it was almost like this is like a temperature check to put Clem and Joel's relationship into perspective.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking earlier like that all they do is it's fight, but then like almost all the couples in this, there is no real. I don't know if you want to say healthy, because you could argue they are healthy, but there's no like relationship in the movie where there's not seemingly a problem.
Yeah. Well, and up to this point in the movie, we've only seen sort of positive version of Joel and Clem.
True. That's true. Yes.
They met a few days from now for the first time.
So, at last we meet for the first time for the last time.
And it was awkward, their conversation, but they seemed to both be happy about it. And so now we're getting Carrie and Rob as this bad version of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, here's what it could be. And we get a great angle on Joel sitting on the stairs because he's confused, but he's listening. And when Carrie walked past him, he's got his hand holding onto the railing really tight, but he looks like a little kid watching his parents argue.
I thought the same thing. It's like he feels like you're sitting at the top of the stairs while there's action downstairs, right. And you're looking down over the top of the thing. Yeah.
And then Rob says, I agree. It's not about us. It's about Joel, who's an adult. Okay. Not Mama Carrie's kid. But in this moment, he feels like their kid. That's the way the scene is framed. His parents are fighting and he's over there not understanding why.
Like the prelude to when he's like the little kid under the table with his mother.
Yeah. And Rob takes a card out of the envelope. Carrie throws the unfolded laundry at Rob, one piece at a time. And he's like, what are you? And she says, that's your laundry. I love this scene. And then we get an angle on Joel again as Carrie leaves and goes up the stairs. And that's where Joel's holding onto the railing really tight. And Rob says, that's great. That's good. And he holds out the card and he turns it in his hand, like just to make sure Joel notices. And Joel comes over and takes it and then holds it up by the lamp to look at it. And Rob is blurry in the background, but this is basically just a focus pull.
Yeah.
Not the plastic sheet that they use in other scenes. And the camera rises to Joel as he's looking at this card, which means Rob is no longer in the scene visually. You commented on the music 2 days ago on Ex Machina. The music kind of cuts off as Joel looks at it and says, okay. It keeps going, but there's this moment in the music where it gets quiet.
Yeah, perfectly done.
So that we focus, he focuses, and we get the insert of the card where it says, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Eakin, Clementine Krasinski has had Joel Barish erased from her memory. Please never mention their relationship to her again. Thank you. Lacuna Inc. And this is where the internet got the 210 address, which is wrong. I mentioned it several minutes ago and then got confused where it came from. It's from this card. It says 210 East Grand Street, New York, New York. That is not Lacuna's address.
Well, even before the card, which also email is a thing now. They could have done that, I guess.
It even looks like it was made on a typewriter.
It does. Well, the office doesn't have a computer. I'd have
they have computers because they use a laptop that they bring
later. Right. But what I was thinking too is, I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead. Well,
that's basically the end of the minute because the music starts to come back in as he's looking at the card. And
yeah, so the thing that I noted, in this is because we know from the meeting of Joel and Clementine originally that basically Rob is the catalyst for both of their meetings. Well, yeah, now that I say that out loud, that doesn't sound right because they meet at their party right at the beach.
At the beach.
And then, but if he didn't find the card, he wouldn't have his memory erased.
Right.
And he wouldn't have had his memory erased, and he would have hid the memory to then meet her again. So maybe it works, kind of.
It's a time loop.
Yeah.
And a pretty good one. Yeah, if he doesn't get this card in this moment, he doesn't erase her. They don't meet in a few days because he wakes up on Valentine's Day at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
This is 3 days before the 14th, so that gives him enough days to go to the office tomorrow, depending on what time it is right now, and probably go back to his place, gather up all his stuff and bring it back. Because he does miss things. So he does probably do it in a hurry, packing up all the stuff to bring to them.
And it seemed dark in the background of the scene. Although I don't know if can you see the windows? Maybe you can't. I was thinking that it seemed dark. So it would probably be at night, presumably.
I think isn't there a window behind Rob, but it's hard to tell because I think there's curtains. I don't know if
Yeah, so I guess you're right. I guess you might not know exactly what time it is. Presumably, he probably goes home distressed. He wakes up the next morning to go to the office. He demands to find out what's going on. They give him
he might even call him before he leaves Rob and Carrie's.
Yeah.
They got a phone.
Right.
And then he's probably, when we see him in the office, next minute, it's probably first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Because he wants to find out what this is and see if this is real.
It's such a ridiculous, every time I watch this movie, based on the era of it not being, the 80s or 90s, like I said, with no email, it's such a ludicrous thing where they're sending out these like cards. How do you know you're sending it to everyone? And,
how do you know the right people
can leave their cards. Yeah, exactly. Like how much mail do you get that you just like, this is crap, throw in the trash? You don't know what it is.
Yeah, Lacuna Inc. I don't know what that is. I'm throwing that away.
It sounds like a marketing scam.
Yeah.
You're sending them out. You could go to your friend's house. You've been to your, someone's house and they have their mail kind of just from that day sitting out. You're not going to open your friend's mail, I hope, but you might see it sitting there. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, Joel saw Frank's mail at the mailroom at the apartment.
Do you see the return?
It says Lacuna in the corner. Yeah.
Okay. So it does. Yeah. So it just seems like a crazy, obviously the technology in itself is interesting, but that for some reason that bugs me that they're just handing out little cards, like from the dentist, you got your appointment in 3 months. So here's your little card.
Oh, I have plenty of problems with the way Lacuna works if we think this is reality. I think the movie is good to make it feel a little mundane. It looks like a dentist office. It's just a place you go to get this thing done.
Yeah.
They send out a card. Instead of reminder cards for your dentist appointment, everyone else gets a reminder card that you had that appointment.
Yeah, it does look like a dentist office. Maybe they took over an old dentist office. I guess all the doctors kind of places have a very similar vibe.
Right. So they want it to feel simple because that's not the point. This isn't a science fiction film per se.
No.
About memory erasure. This is a
time loop love story.
I was going to say romantic comedy, sort of, but it's not a comedy. At least the romance isn't. It's not necessarily romantic. Right.
Is that a thing? A rom-dram? A romantic drama?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a science fiction. I think that's what makes it beautiful is that the technology, it makes it seem complicated, but it doesn't. It seems easy the way that when they're operating, It's like, press this, press that.
Well, right. They don't have to pay attention. They just have to see that it got this little dot of emotion on some scanner.
Yeah.
And we just have to understand his perspective because that's what the movie is telling us. It's Joel's perspective of what he's experiencing, which is the emotional core of all these memories. And that's what it is for us. It doesn't matter whether we get the technical aspects because we have to experience the emotions as well. Because that's what movies are.
Yeah.
It's fun if you also understand how the movie's put together and all the technical stuff, but you don't need it.
No. And I feel like it makes it more somehow believable by not knowing.
Right. As soon as I start thinking about it, I'm like, there's no way Lacuna can charge you money for this process. So it's really cool that Lacuna does this for free. That is awesome. It's
interesting. This is probably at this point in Jim Carrey's career, his most well-known non-comedy.
Yeah.
On my podcast, we just did The Truman Show.
Right.
And I feel like that was his first departure. And in this movie, but in Truman Show, he's obviously acting. I feel like this is supremely better acting in a different way. He's very good in this film.
Truman Show is interesting because the movie is a drama, but it's almost like his character's in a comedy.
Yes. And I just said, I don't think anyone else could have played that character in that movie.
Yeah.
Just as I don't feel like I can't think of another actor that could have filled in Jim Carrey's role in this movie.
Well, now that I think about it, this is almost the opposite of The Truman Show. Here, the movie is a comedy, but he is going through a drama.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
His perspective is tragic and sad and desperate, but the movie is just like fun little romp, romantic comedy in reverse.
Yeah, yeah. They're both sad in different ways. I guess, and you could say in this movie, he has a presumably happy ending, you could call it.
Yeah.
Happy-ish ending. Whereas Truman Show, it's a happy ending, but it's also not a happy ending. They both have a weird, it's
both have that ambiguity at the end.
Fade to black.
We're not sure. He goes out that door or starts a new relationship with Clem here. We're not sure how that's going to go. We can guess here. It's going to be really weird over on The Truman Show.
Yeah. Imagine being the most recognizable person.
Yeah. He's the most famous person on the planet and he has no idea how life works.
Yeah. He's never seen a computer because I think they make the show be it's like, trapped in time. Whereas in Eternal Sunshine, he presumably can have a normal life, but you also always have it hanging over him that they both had this procedure, which I love the playing of the tapes, in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's such another airing of like relationship grievances or.
Well, right. I think they will have a better chance the second time.
Absolutely.
It might not be successful, but it will be better.
Right. Because they can predict.
And if there's enough detail on the tapes, it could be really good for them. Almost like therapy. It'd be better if they have therapy where they interact with each other, but they could also do that. Yeah.
I picture them doing therapy while they bring their tapes. Yeah. And like the therapist is in the room while they're listening to each other,
Lacuna should employ some therapists.
They might not have any, well, I guess presumably they're done at the end.
Yeah. Well, or they're so famous they get tons of business now. I don't know.
True. Yeah.
I imagine now the second go around, like the hard parts where your partner now, like Clem does something that Joel doesn't like. And he's like, should I have warned myself about that one? Like he's keeping notes. What do I want to put on the tape next time? And that's not healthy.
No.
You don't want to have the option of erasing people in that regard because then you're just keeping a list.
And the thing that's so, I mean, maybe it's like on the nose of it, but you see when Joel goes to the office the first time, you see old woman kind of tearing with like her dog's leash and stuff in her hands. And presumably people have like their husband died or, their grandfather died. I assume that's probably a common theme of someone dying and they want to forget them. But it seems so antithetical to like the idea of grieving to begin with, where you're going to erase. I mean, the idea of sometimes of, religion of someone dies and you want to live their memory to live on.
Yeah.
You're erasing this memory of a person you presumably loved. And it's such a twisted, I mean, I can't imagine wanting to erase someone who had died in my life. I don't know.
I was thinking of, I don't know if you're familiar with the book Speaker for the Dead.
No, I'm not.
By Orson Scott Card. He's a problematic guy, but that book is amazing. And it's basically about this guy in the future who he travels to this planet to do essentially a funeral. And what a Speaker for the Dead does is he shows up and he is going to give an objective eulogy. Basically, he's going to go around and interview all the people that were in this guy's life, figure out what he was really like, and then give a speech about what this guy was like and why he was who he was. And the guy he's going to do this for was an awful person. Like he was abusive to his wife, but he's going to give a subjective portrait of this guy that other people might not want to speak positively about. And I'm trying to think of how you could erase someone, but like just leave yourself a note. I erase this person so that then you go find out, why was I involved with this person in the first place? And you go and find everyone else who did know them, everyone who got these cards. Now you're going to them and deliberately asking them, what can you tell me about Clementine Brzezinski?
And what will they say, I guess, is the question.
Right. And you like interview all these people so you can like circle in and eventually get to her again. But he gets to her immediately because of in the brain, they're both thinking we need to get back together because they unfortunately erase the relationship in reverse. So they have the positive memories last.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could also use this technology or this process to erase portions of, I mean, if you don't want to erase the person from your memory, you could, erase a bad memory, presumably, I guess.
Yeah. My conclusion so far when we talk about this with other guests is I wouldn't want to erase anything that was too long ago because then that memory is interact with other memories and it colors other things. And I would want to know that I erased something because otherwise, like he found that he had 2 years of his journal were missing. If he doesn't know why, that's going to plague him. Or it would me.
You think someone stole it, someone has it.
If I do a daily journal, that's like someone stole this. What did they get? What have I written in the last 2 years that someone else has somewhere now? Maybe someone at work took it. He doesn't know. If he draws every day and now he's got 2 years of drawings he doesn't have, that messes with what he thinks of his art, probably.
So you'd want to know that you did it.
Right.
And what you erased.
It's like you had this relationship, it didn't go well, you erased it. Now move on. And that could be healthy, sort of. You're probably going to make the same mistakes with the new relationship, but you're probably going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're still you.
Yeah, you're predisposed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you don't know if the relationship would succeed is, are they inevitably going to fall back on the same behavior? Maybe they will, but maybe knowing what that behavior was from their tapes, you actively stop that behavior.
Yeah.
Like if you know that there's a behavior your partner doesn't like, you might try and stop yourself from doing it. And over time you might do it.
Yeah, that's where the tapes are useful.
Yeah.
They know what did they think of each other. It's interesting that Joel might actually be changed more fundamentally though, because he tries to hide, he has that childhood memory of being bathed in the sink erased. He has that memory of being bullied into hitting that bird erased. He has that memory of being caught masturbating erased.
Yeah.
And so what does that change of how he thinks of his whole childhood now too? And does that change how he behaves in the present? Or does he end up still being the same person?
Yeah, like do those singular events change your course?
Yeah. It's like if you just erased a random memory, does that change who you are?
I mean, the bird one feels like, of all those, feels like the most important.
Yeah, that might be the reason that he is sort of a loner who just sits around and draws and writes in a journal all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, it could change his personality.
Yeah.
But you only see what, one full day of him in the new present?
Sort of two, but we don't see all of either one.
So you don't know how his...
Because their date on the ice is the night after the day that they first met.
But maybe the scene where he goes into the hallway to chase after, he might not have done before.
Yeah.
Because he's very shy and he is afraid.
Yeah, maybe the bullying incident being erased was good for him. Maybe he wouldn't have made that step. Or the fact that she's now in whatever version of that memory is still in his head changed the way he interacts with it. So he's even going to be more attached to her. It's going to be fun when I get to those scenes again.
Yeah. When I think of it in that way, it's those. I never thought of like how those memories would interact, because you're erasing things, but he erased things you weren't supposed to.
Right.
That's part of their process.
Well, that's like when she asked him when they were on the ice and she asked him to name the constellations. And there's this pause, and I'm like, what if he doesn't know any constellations anymore? Because she always asked him about constellations.
See, I thought he didn't. I mean, you do have that split moment where you think he's not going to remember or know.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if maybe he literally doesn't remember any actual constellations. So fortunately, he's creative. He's able to make one up. But maybe he doesn't remember them because they were erased, just like he doesn't remember Oh My Darling Clementine,
Yeah.
Huckleberry Hound, and all that.
That freaked her out. I feel like he's like, what? You don't know this song?
Yeah. Because when they meet the first time, which we'll see at the end of the movie, he immediately does make a comment on her name.
Yeah.
But it's cute.
Yeah, he doesn't do it in a mean way.
Right.
Playful.
He's not Phil Connors.
No, he's the opposite, perhaps.
Essentially, we've got the male in my movies are getting nicer as the week goes. You know, from Nathan to Phil to Joel.
Yes.
They're still all a little problematic depending on how you look at it, but hey, they're men.
Yes. Joel has his preconceptions of the world, it seems.
Yeah. And so does Clem. And the movie's open about that.
Yeah.
Patrick is the bad one in this case. And Mierzwiak.
Yes.
Yes, you erased your relationship with Mary, but you also should have, gotten her a new job somewhere else.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but it's kind of creepy that she's still around. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that whatever they had was so brief, it didn't mean much to him, but that's also a problem because she clearly still likes him.
Yeah, and she's almost half his age and
Right.
a little creepy. Patrick's creepy too.
Oh, yeah. Stan's the only nice one.
Yeah.
But of course, he's also the one going around erasing people's memories. However positive that is.
But they
ask for
they
it.
sign up.
Yeah. People want to hear you talk about other movies. Where can they do so?
Yeah, you can check out the Left of the Projector. We talk about movies from a leftist perspective. You can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the website for the podcast itself, which is leftoftheprojector.buzzsprout.com. And our most recent episode, we discussed The Truman Show, as we discussed today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just on my brain, Jim Carrey. Another movie where Jim Carrey is funny, but not funny.
Right. Thank you for listening. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Minute is just one part of an existential trilogy of podcasts. Tune in every Tuesday for Minutia Ex Machina, every Wednesday for the Groundhog Day Project Minute by Minute, and every Thursday for more Eternal Sunshine. And you can follow all three shows on one feed. Just search an existential trilogy. Follow this show on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Spotless Minute. This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops. Until next time.
This is it, Joel. Oh, God. It's gonna be gone soon. Okay, I'm sorry.
I know.
What do we do?
We're going off. Enjoy it.
Can you hear me? I don't want this anymore. I want to call it off.
bolt your windows, and turn off the lights.
Welcome to Michael Myers Minute, where we delve into the 1978 horror classic Halloween 1 minute at a time. I'm your host, Robert Black. Minute 65, Bob goes to get beers. Bob, be right back. Don't get dressed. He leaves. Second 6 to 21, Linda gets comfy like a cat. Cut to interior hallway. Bob walks past a big painting of a cat and enters interior Wallace kitchen. Walks toward the sink, doubles back, realizing where the refrigerator is. Bob, 1, is drunk. 2, has never been to the Wallace house. 3, both. He opens the refrigerator, takes out 2 beers. Opens the cupboard, finds a can of peanuts. In the script, Bob gathers the food and beer into his arms. He shuts out the light with his elbow. He turns to leave the doors. Wham, he steps into a chair, knocking him backwards. The beer falls on the floor along with the chips and the peanuts. Bob leans down to pick them up. Bob, God damn it. Another angle. Bob has his head down, intent on cleaning up the mess. There's a slam from across the kitchen. Bob looks up. As scripted, there's too much going on. Grabbing the chips and the peanuts is a comedic moment. Dropping the beer is the punchline. The film doesn't need all that. Second 46. The back door of the kitchen slowly swings open as if it has been slammed shut and the bolt didn't catch. Bob walks over to the door. Bob, Annie, and the minute ends. That is all for minute 65. Michael Myers Minute is a production of Let Me Drop Studio. You can find more content at LetMeDrops.com. Stalk me on Twitter and Facebook at Myers Minute or Instagram Michael Myers Minute. Till next time.